What's up, guys? Chet the Rockstar here, shooting another educational Star Realms stream game. Played this game 10 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago, something like that, and it's a really, really good illustration of one, base strategy, and two, when to turn the corner and commit to a strategy. So, let's take a look at it. Let's see how we did. Let's break this game down. All right, so very first play, here we go. Turn one, 3 trade, instantly grab a scrapper, grab a base. So far, so good. Haven't committed to a strategy yet, but it's a really good card. And it's definitely the best card in the row. An argument could be made to get Swarmer, an argument could be made to get Patrol Cutter, but getting a scrap now, keeping ahead of our opponent in terms of efficiency, really good idea. And let's take a look here. Our opponent with 4 trade has decided to buy the Patrol Cutter. I actually don't like this play on his part. I think the best play is actually Swarmer Trade Wheel. I don't have any damage right now. This gets him ahead on damage vector, and it also gets him ahead on a trade vector. Him getting the trade wheel and me having no damage allows him for the trade wheel to stay out, giving him a one train advantage for several turns probably until I can acquire damage. And it will also force me to prioritize damage over bases, for instance, which I do later on get. So I don't really like this play personally, but it's not terrible. Patrol Cutter is a good card. It is 3 damage. It is 2 trade. It does give him a chance to kill my base, but I think it is the pretty clear suboptimal play in this case. So he does end up buying the Swarmer too, which is fine. A little bit of trade, a little bit more damage, but I definitely think Trade Wheel was a better play here. He also doesn't really guarantee himself heals, so fairly standard for me. I like this play because he has some damage, but not a lot. So by me buying Trade Wheel, one, it's going to get me more trade, and there's a lot of big stuff out here, so potentially it's going to give me a chance to get that. Two, it's also going to force him to push all his damage through my 2 bases, keeping my face protected, extending the game, and giving me a chance to play a little farther. I'm already kind of thinking base strategy out there. There's already 3 really big bases out here. Potentially I could get Trade Hauler. Potentially I can get some Explorers next turn. There's a lot to like. Let's move on. Little unfortunate I flopped a Repair Bot. So now he's going to get a Scrap Edge on me. And now it looks like he's going to get a Trade Edge on me too. So that's quite unfortunate. And he does manage to pick both of them up. But good news is I get a Cargo Pod. So this is kind of nice. Now, normally I don't like to scrap Vipers, but in a case like this, scrapping a Viper to get a Cargo Pod, which will allow me to get these 7 drops, it's a good play. Good, pretty good outcome. About as best as I could expect. Now, here's another odd play. My opponent manages to luck out and get 7 trade. Good for him. But he goes with the Star Fortress? Little odd, I would say. A little odd. Remember, I'm going bases. So if he gets a 7 drop, it needs to be a 7 drop that's going to like be really effective for his deck. You know, a card like Imperial Palace gives him a card draw, makes me throw away cards, which in turn probably keeps me away from the 7 drops, and gives him additional card draws, allowing him to draw into his trade, giving him a much better chance to get the 7 drops. A card like this, where you have to draw and discard, you're not getting extra trade, you're just potentially throwing away Vipers. And if you're throwing away Vipers and you're throwing away damage, then you're not killing my bases. So I think this is actually a poor play. I actually would have liked him to get Heavy Cruiser more than Star Fortress because it guarantees a draw and potentially gets you another draw. And as somebody who doesn't have a lot of damage, him acquiring bases is not really that important. I think I maybe even would have liked him to get Frontier Station over Star Fortress. I think Star Fortress is actually the weakest out of the top 4 cards on this trade row. And quite honestly, I think it kind of comes back to bite him in the butt later. I'm not 100% sure. Again, I've just played this game, but I recall later on it ended up weakening his deck a little bit. But good news is we do get to keep our Fortress of Oblivion and potentially get a Ravager or some other nice card. Ooh. So here's an interesting play. I pick up the Solar Skiff. And one, it's 2 trade. It doesn't synergize with my deck yet, but I was planning on getting the Ravager anyway. Really, all I'm trying to do is acquire trade so I can pick up Imperial Palace or Heavy Cruiser or Frontier Station. Probably the yellows, but maybe the reds, since I'm starting to acquire some reds too. But this is a weird play in a sense that I am acquiring trade and I don't have any other blues. But the good news is more just, hey, I'm getting trade, and that's what's important. And it still allows me to gain trade to get me the 7-drops later, and then also allows me to still pick up the Ravager, and that can allow me to get rid of the big drops that I don't get. So this has a dual kind of purpose turn. Okay, so the other reason I did that is sometimes you'll buy a 1-drop and then you'll have a certain amount of trade left over. So if you have 4 trade and your original plan was buy a 1-drop, buy a 3-drop, sometimes you'll buy a 1-drop and then a better card will flip that you can afford. And then you'll decide to buy that instead. So I picked up Patrol Bot because now I can start scrapping. So my new goal is to scrap down to my high trade cards, use those high trade cards to get bases or to get damage. And so here's another weird play. He scraps the Warning Beacon. Now I get that theoretically I could buy that, but he's got a red card. He could buy it too. And honestly, Warning Beacon doesn't do a ton in my deck. What he should be doing is scrapping Heavy Cruiser. He should be scrapping Imperial Palace. He should be scrapping Frontier Station. This is how I win. Right? These are my win conditions right here. And he hasn't identified that yet. So he scraps a Warning Beacon to prevent me from top decking it, I guess? But I've only got one other red card in my deck aside from Fortress of Oblivion. So this is another odd play. I do think my opponent made several early game mistakes that eventually contributed to his downfall. This is fairly standard. Get the Convoy Bot, get the scrap all you can. Argument could be made to get the Ravager to scrap these cards, but it's hard to say no to extra scrap. Especially when I only have 2 scraps, and one of them, the Fortress of Oblivion, doesn't always trigger. This was a little bit of an odd decision. I decided to just go for the Heavy Cruiser instead of the Gunship. The reason is because I wanted to cycle some more, but I actually do think this is a bit of a mistake. I think it's actually probably better to get the Gunship to then nearly guarantee me getting one of these big bases. But I also figured I had a yellow in my deck, I believe, and I think Heavy Cruiser is a fantastic card. Even if you don't pair it with other yellows, it's still a card draw. It's still 4 damage, and he does have a 7-drop, 6 HP outpost to kill. So I do need the damage too. One thing it does, one thing that is a problem though is getting the Gunship would also allowed me to scrap. And I think I just made a snap decision here. I could say this is a mistake. I had my reasons for it, but in hindsight, I think this is a mistake. So, good news here. He kills this base, but not this one. Now he ends up with 5 trade. Let's see what he buys. Yeah. And see, the other thing is, too, is now it allows him to get the Gunship, which gives him a really good shot to get these big ones. So, Yeah, I'm not liking my play on the last turn. But good news is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And this is very, very clear here. Oh, it turns out I 8. So, yeah, I buy the skiff for 1, right? Getting ready to now buy these other cards. So I want the skiff anyway, because the skiffs combo with each other. And now it's a decision of theoretically you could go Ravager Starbase Omega, which I think is quite good, but Imperial Palace is such a good card. It's an excellent card. It's a win condition. There's a reason we're picking it up and we're trying to get it early is because he's going to have a tough time getting through it, especially when he's down a card and we're up a card. And again, it combos with our other yellows, so I like it. And our opponent gets another pretty good draw. He scraps 2 cards. He draws a card to discard. He's got plenty of damage to kill the trade wheel. You know, and a good, pretty darn good decision here. Picks up Stealth Tower, realizes I'm starting to go base strategy. Stealth Tower is uber, uber good in a base strategy, and it's excellent. If he can combo these two together, he'll get 4 card draws and 6 damage. You know, yes, he'll have to discard a card every time, but having that level of cycle with a deck that gets scrapped down, this is a good play. This is a very good play, and it's a very good decision. I like everything about what he's done here. So this one's a little odd. 3, 5, 6, 7. Thought process could be get Frontier Station. But here's the thing. I know that he knows that I'm going base strategy. And so he's already taken steps to counter it. So what I need to do now is take steps to counter his counter. So if he thinks I'm going base and he's going to start taking bases, I need to start taking damage. I need to start taking a Ravager that can get rid of 6 drops. I need to start applying some pressure to him. I need to kind of turn the corner, but not really. I'm not really committing to a damage strategy, but I am ramping my damage strategy. And the problem with these other cards here, yeah, Frontier Station gives 3 damage, Ravager gives me 6. And the other thing that Ravager allows me to do, to still pick up Starbase Omega, still get my card draw, still strengthen my yellows. So in this case, I'm adding 6 damage and a card draw, and still adding 6 HP in base. Whereas if I bought the Frontier Station or the Federation Shipyard, I'd still add 6 HP in base, but I'd only add 3 damage or potentially 0 damage. Yes, top decking is great, but again, top decking is not that good relative to just straight up damage because you're hoping to get a good card to top deck. Whereas with the Ravager, you have the good card to top deck. And the thing is, too, Ravager clears out the trade row. Really, really nice. All right, let's move on. Yep. Unfortunately, don't get to kill this card. So right now, this card looks pretty good. But again, he's got no yellows to combo with it. So he's only getting 1 card draw. And he's not getting card advantage. You know, this is a nice play. Customs Frigate is a really good card. He's got some blues in here, so he can combo with that. It can potentially get him a 4-drop, get him another ship to combo with his card, and he's got cycle to get to it, so I like it. We have to get lucky here. And we do. Whew! This was incredibly lucky. There were 6 cards left. 4 of them were scouts, 1 of them was a Viper, and 1 of them was the heavy cruiser. Needless to say, I looked at my deck before this turn happened, while his turn was going on, and I was like, 1 in 6? Nailed it. Feels pretty good. Feels good to run good. And oh, look at this draw. Oh, never mind. I apologize. I thought I only had scouts left. This was no damage. Oh, this was... Oh, that's what it was. I didn't have enough damage to kill it unless I got the heavy cruiser. That's what it was. So this is really, really lucky for us. We managed to kill his base. We get 2 card draws, and then we can double scrap. Awesome. And it's going to give us enough to pick up a 6-drop base, and we're going to absolutely go with Supply Depot. We're going hard yellow now. We're going hard yellow base. We figured out our win condition. Base strategy, and specifically yellow bases, yellow cards, yellow damage. That's what we're going to do. Our opponent doesn't really have a strategy right now. He's got all the colors. He's got a base or two. He's got some healing. He's got some trade. He's got some scrap. But he's kind of all over the place and nothing really combos. So our deck is about to become really strong and really efficient. This is actually another thing that was kind of nice to flip. Um, my opponent, you're going to see, is going to scrap that. And obviously we would have loved that card. But forcing him to scrap this, like, it becomes a major threat. And now that gives us the opportunity to pick up Shipyard. It gives us the opportunity to pick up whatever comes out. Maybe even get Cargo Pod again to combo with some of our blobs. In a weird way, I actually would not have wanted. I would have wanted this card. Like, I would have taken it for sure. But in a weird way, it makes him sort of use up his trade row scrap. So I'm actually not really opposed to this. Oh, never mind. He didn't do it. Oh, he buys it. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I apologize. I thought he scrapped it. It turns out he's going to scrap the gunship to buy the Colony Sea chip, which to me is a downgrade for his deck. He's ahead on life. What he needs to do is acquire damage and kill me, and he does not do that. Yeah, I get pretty lucky here again. And this is a fairly standard buy. I'm just going to combo my blues. I'm going to get my bases. I'm going to get my healing. And I'm going to slowly but surely wear him down. This is fairly standard. So I get rid of the bases for him. Because since he knows I'm going base, I get rid of the bases that don't help. Try to remove bases that do help. I'm going to pick up a Merc Cruiser here because I have cards that want to combo. And Merc Cruiser is going to be a huge engine for those cards. Yeah, this is easy play for him. Picking up the Wrecker, he wants to scrap down super hard. He wants to heal up and scrap hard. So now he's finally got a plan for his deck. So here's the crazy part. Because I know what he's trying to do here, I've got to counter it. So again, another yellow base, another yellow damage, but I got my eye right here. I can get Capital World, this card's going to save my ass. But if I can double up with Orbital Platform, that'd be pretty sweet too. The point is, though, he's putting damage into bases and not into my faces. And that's what I want. Scraps Orbital Platform. That is interesting. So he does another thing here. He keeps his frickin' he keeps his Imperial Frigate. Let's jump back. Excuse me, Customs Frigate. I said Imperial Frigate. He keeps this card, but he's top decking a Merc Cruiser. He could scrap this, play the Merc Cruiser, ally combo red or green, and get it another 7 damage, and really start putting the pressure on. But he chooses not to. Again, I think this is another mistake on his part. Here's a nice turn. Draw, draw, toss, toss. And Capital World is my new best friend. It's in the deck. Fairly standard play here. We're probably not going to draw it for a while, but we have so much base and so much card draw and so much scrap that being able to cycle through to get Capital World is going to heal us up and it's going to allow us to come back. It's the ultimate comeback card. It's perfect in a base deck. It's an auto buy. It's an easy auto buy. Yeah, see, this is the only time he gets 2 card draws off of it. That was a good scrap. Yeah, good scrap, good damage. Good play. I like this play a lot. He's prioritizing damage. He realizes he needs to come down hard. You know, he makes many good plays in this game, but he makes just enough mistakes to lose the game. And it's kind of unfortunate because I mean the guy's playing pretty darn well. Alright, so get a nice scrap of a scout, get a second nice scrap of a scout. We get our damage in here, and then I'm going to combo blue to get a card draw. This is all nice optimal plays. We get 17 damage, we get 11 to the face. Alright, feeling pretty good. Nice. Top decks, double scraps. See, another good play. Waited to play this to ally the combo damage. Drew the card. Now he gets Machine Cult. Now he draws a card. This is fine, fine plays on his part. Look at that. Heals up a bunch, takes damage down. Like, I'm on my heels, man. I'm absolutely on my heels. Here's another play. I'm setting up to get Moonworm. Unfortunately, I think I'm going to have to draw more through my deck in order to get it. But good news is this also cycles Capital World back. Potentially I can draw that, and then we're going to be really set up. We get the skiff. We luck out. All right, you know. But hey, we got through all their scouts. We got a good amount of damage. We got rid of his damage. Right, we want to get rid of Death World. We want to get rid of the Screecher. We don't want to give him more trade roll control. We don't want to give him another base, at least one that we can't afford. And then I'm going to scrap this to pick up Falcon, which gives me a sometimes draw and turns it into a guaranteed draw. So I think that is definitely the right play. Hey, look, he scraps 2 scouts. He draws a card. Oh, look at this. Very nice draw. Gets the Federation, heals up, deals damage, takes me down to 6. Like, well done. Well done. You know, but this is why we did a base strategy. The strategy was just protect, 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 protect. And he has drawn, like, well, but I wouldn't say, like, amazingly well. I would say he's actually drawing what he should be drawing, given how scrapped down his deck is and how well constructed his deck is. He's actually drawing really well. He's playing his turns really well. But I hate to say it, we get the frickin' God draw. Let's go. Boom, boom. More draws, more cards. And boom, put up a wall. Trump would be jealous. Now we can bash through. Now we got 12 health. But not only do we have 12 health, we have 6 plus 4 plus 5 is 15. We have 27 effective health now. And a buttload of card draws coming. 3 card draws here. Potentially 4 if Supply Depot lives. If that doesn't live, we've got a card draw with Starbase Omega. So if he doesn't kill us here, we got a really good shot of winning. Truth be told, I looked ahead at his deck. And I knew he did not have enough damage to kill us. And then here just comes the mother of all turns. Yeah, Moonworm. Boom. Exact lethal. So, what did we learn from this game? 1, card draw is amazing. 2, once you decide on a strategy and you've committed to it, realize when it's time to slightly alter said strategy. I had a base strategy going, but then I changed it up just a little bit. I turned the corner. I said, okay, it's time to get damage. It's time to kill our opponent. It's time to make our deck really efficient. I prioritized yellow bases so I could prioritize synergy, and I also prioritized card draw. Every single one of my yellow bases gave me a card draw. All of my blue cards, with the exception of Patrol Cutter, gave me card draw, right? Moonworm, card draw. What else did I get? My reds, scrappers. And then one of the key buys, Merc Cruiser. Merc Cruiser then comboed everything to make sure everything allied. So no matter what I had, Merc Cruiser kind of tied everything together and gave me the opportunity to continue to activate card draws that I would not normally get. Merc Cruiser is an incredibly powerful card and is very, very undervalued. So that's pretty much it. When you make a base deck, 2 things that people forget are to get damage and to get enough card draw to keep cycling into your bases. So, did I run lucky? Sure. But my opponent made just enough mistakes to allow me to win this game. Base strategy would not have worked if he just made his deck a little more efficient and made a few more key buys in the beginning and just thought his plays through a little bit better. Unfortunately, he didn't. But fortunately for us, we did. Every single play, with the exception of a couple of mistakes that I did mention, were thought out, and were thought out pretty well with a plan, with an eye towards a goal of getting to my bases as much as possible, setting up that protection, setting up that wall, and then get enough damage to whittle him down, which we eventually did. Did we get very lucky on that last turn? Sure, absolutely. But we also had like 5 card draws. So the likelihood of us drawing into all our damage was actually pretty darn high. 1 draw, 2 draws, 3 draws, 4 draws, 5 draws, 6 draws, 7 draws. We had 7 card draws in total. Granted, we drew into one of those card draws. Or we drew into 2 of those card draws, but it's the way it goes, you know? So really try to make sure that once you sort of decide on a strategy, I'm not saying you should always commit to said strategy, but you should be thinking about your strategy as soon as you start buying cards. Your first buy says something about your deck. Your second buy says something about your deck. Your opponent's first and second buy say something about their decks, right? He makes a buy. Sometimes you want to think, all right, I need to counter his play now, especially if you buy something good. And then you also want to be thinking of vectors of winning the game. Am I going to win because I have more trade than him? Am I going to win because I just simply have more damage than him? Am I going to win because I have more scrap than him? Am I going to win because I have more bases than him? Which is how we won. So you always want to be sort of thinking like, what is my opponent's weakness? And then in turn, what is going to be my strength? Your opponent's weakness should be your greatest strength, because that's how you counter opponent's deck. If opponent has a scrap deck, what's his weakness? Healing, bases, and probably card draw. So there's 3 things that you can beat him on, right? And if your opponent is going bases, he probably doesn't have enough damage to kill you, and he's probably not that efficient. Well, guess what? This deck became efficient, got card draw, and that's how we won. We shored up our weaknesses, and we attacked his weaknesses. We forced him to put all his damage, his efficient scrap down damage, into bases instead of into our face. So this is a really good example of having a strategy and also formulating a counter strategy and then committing to both. So hope you guys liked this video. Hope you got a little bit educated. Hope you had fun watching it. Keep learning, keep rocking. Rockstar, I'll see you later.